Okay, everybody, this is Andrew coming at you. This is SuperHouseLive, and we once again got Ben Juan with us.
Hey, what's up, guys?
We lower that audio
On the
more.
anniversary.
I'm gonna lower the audio a little bit more, real quick, just for safety. Yes, go ahead. The 80th anniversary. Yes.
It is, yeah. So yeah, all the celebrations are underway. DC Universe is going crazy. I don't know if you saw, but they're putting up all like their Batman content for free today, in day alone.
Whoa.
So like that's a lot and way more than any one person can go through in one day.
Like all Batman comics are free today.
All the movies and TV shows that they are authorized to put up are for free, so you don't even need a membership in order to watch it right now.
Holy crap!
I know.
They need to get the DCU game up a little bit more, I think. They need to make a PS4 app and all that kind of shit, but that's another story.
I think they're on their way or something, because they just announced they're going to put their entire digital library onto DC Universe, which is insane to me. I can't wait to see like what that looks like, because for right now, what it is, I don't know if you have a subscription, but
I do.
Yeah. So like sometimes they have certain comics or certain movies and TV shows up, but like it's not like Netflix where they tell you, you put it in the queue and it actually tells you when it's going to expire. It just randomly disappears in certain months. But if they're going to do this whole comic thing, I'm hoping that like they just keep that library up forever. If they want to keep that up like that. So I'm all for that. It's not great considering I just bought a bunch of digital comics, but oh well.
Anything good going on recently in Batman world, story wise?
In terms of the comics?
Yeah.
What was the last thing that I heard about?
They're changing the logo for Detective Comics, makes it a little bit more, it looks a little bit more like kid friendly, to be honest with you, which is a good thing.
I think they're going more classic. Yeah. I mean, I think one thing, I heard an interesting story that I want to pick up from Tomasi, who is doing Detective Comics, and there's a story in which somebody is hunting after all the people who made Bruce into Batman. So not just like Alfred and Leslie Tompkins, but also like Ducard and like the people who trained him and stuff like that.
Oh shit!
So,
okay.
Nice blast of the past. I'm basically a sucker for any story that goes into the training aspect, just because there are so many different there's so much potential into talking about like ways that he develops certain, I guess, mindsets or certain skills and everything. So I always love that stuff.
Nice. But the main thing we're going to talk about today, though, is, I mean, there's probably a few things, all things Batman, but on this 80th anniversary of Batman, there was just it's the day the first issue came out, correct? That's what this is.
Right, Detective Comics 27.
Okay, gotcha. So the main thing is what Snyder has said recently, correct?
Right. So there was a whole, I guess, SnyderCon. I don't know what it was. A whole Q&A event where he aired. There was a screening of a whole bunch of his movies from like Watchmen, and then Batman vs Superman was one of them. So there was a lot of interaction between him and the fans and everything. So a lot of it was built around the Snyder cut of like what were his original plans for Justice League. And first off, I want to acknowledge the fact that like one of his original plans for Justice League included, and let me know if this sounds familiar, it would eventually end up in the future where Darkseid has taken over, Lois Lane is dead, Superman has succumbed to the anti-life equation and is working for Darkseid. Some of the Justice League heroes are dead. Batman and Flash are among the survivors, and Batman is trying to figure out how to send Flash back in time to warn him, which ties it back to the scene from Batman vs Superman, which is essentially kind of what I pitched as the beginning of the time travel cut in that video, if you guys haven't checked it out yet.
One of our most popular videos on SuperHouseLive.
Oh,
Thanks everybody for watching it. Yep.
Awesome. To be fair, I mean, that is kind of the only way you can interpret sort of that nightmare scenario in Batman versus Superman. I just think it's kind of funny that he actually just outright described or confirmed that that's what it was. a few months after we released that. So I mean, I would have obviously I would have loved to have seen it, but the aspects that I pitched in terms of it being at the very beginning of the first Justice League and Flash being the main character, I think that's more unique to my stuff. I think this is something that he envisioned being in the second movie or something like that. It would lead up to that,
Right.
and then they would have to do some sort of retcon or some sort of way of going back in time in order to fix something.
Right. But so, do you have the quote in front of you? I pulled up some websites just in case, like some of his quotes about Batman killing.
Why don't you bring it up? Yeah,
All right.
if you have it. I don't have it up on me right now.
Yeah. Real quick, hold on 1 second. I got some windows that are not going away for me. Oh my god. Um. Well, just to kill the dead air here. Basically, he said like, "Wake up, Batman kills" or something like that. Like, okay, man, great.
Let's. Why don't we read the real thing just in case we're just quoting him? Because I did see a lot of headlines like that. I don't know if that's he didn't straight up say that. He did say "wake up," but he didn't outright say "wake up" because Batman kills. It wasn't like put up with it. I think he was trying to make some sort of.
Here we go. I got it.
Okay,
Someone says, he says, someone says to me, "Oh, Batman killed a guy." I'm like, "Really?" I'm like, "Wake the fuck up." So I guess that's what I'm saying about once you've like lost your virginity to this fucking movie. And then you come and say to me something about like, "Oh, my superhero wouldn't do that." I'm like, "Are you serious?" I'm down the fucking road on that, and it's a cool point of view. Look, I'm 100% fine. It's a cool point of view to be like, my heroes are still innocent. My heroes didn't fucking lie to America. My heroes didn't embezzle money from their corporation corp. My heroes didn't commit any atrocities. That's cool, but you're living in a fucking dream world, okay? Oh man, Ben, take this one
like
away, man.
I mean, it feels like he's not really talking about Batman, and a majority of that quote doesn't. It feels more like he's trying to just make a statement about, like heroes don't exist in his mind, type of thing. Which a lot of people online have pointed out, like how it's weird that he sounds just like Manchester Black at the end of Superman versus the Elite, or what's so funny about.
I saw a lot of videos about that, and that's one of the best Superman animated videos.
Yeah, it is. And also interesting that the guy in charge of Superman ended up saying that. So, I mean, I'm seeing a lot of discussion about like, should Batman kill? Does it matter if Batman kills? You have all sorts of people. You have Snyder defenders saying, hey, we side with this guy or whatever, and point out a whole bunch of hypocrisy in people's claims that it shouldn't have happened because they bring up, well, you're okay with Wonder Woman killing in the first Wonder Woman movie. You're okay with like Marvel characters killing. You're okay with the Avengers killing and everything. But like, you throw a hissy fit about Snyder having Batman and Superman kill. That's hypocrisy. And I'd argue, no, not really, because in the whole scheme of things, that's not necessarily I know it's a common trope, but that's not necessarily something that's common among all the superheroes, is the no kill rule. You don't really associate Wonder Woman with that. It wouldn't even make sense for Wonder Woman to even have that, considering she grew up with a whole bunch of Amazon warriors with swords, or went to go and fight World War One. Similar thing with the Avengers. I can't think of a single time. I mean, I'm more familiar with the MCU than I am with the Marvel comics, but I don't know if there's really any comics where Iron Man says, "Hey, I will not kill people." Captain America fought World War.
Yeah.
So my whole thing is like, this isn't a whole morality thing or people having problems with heroes killing. This is a problem specifically with this character killing or these characters killing. But we're going to talk more about Batman on the Batman side. Batman has it. People, I guess, have more of an issue with this because it's part of his character. That's all that it is. It has nothing to do with like people having issues with action heroes killing or other superheroes killing, and specifically this one, because it is more interesting for him to have it than for him not to have it, and because it's been in the comics for so long. Now, a lot of people are going to bring up and be like, well, if you look at the like old school Golden Age Batman comics, he killed this time, this time, this time, and I could personally cite all those times.
He had a gun.
Yeah,
He
yeah.
straight up had a gun in some of those early runs, right?
But the only time he straight up shot somebody was when he shot a vampire with silver bullets.
Oh.
It was still killing, but it wasn't. It's not like he was going around like the Punisher and just gunning people down all the time. He broke a henchman's neck one time in like one of the Doctor Death comics. I mean, in the first comic, Detective Comics 27, he straight up punches the villain who falls into the vat of chemicals, and he's like fitting end for his kind. That's it. You know, it was his stance at the time. And it was later on that I think the editors were like, we're uncomfortable with this because it's becoming a kid's character and we need to have a comics code. So that's kind of what developed the Batman no kill rule. However, it looks like as it evolved, it went from just being a like, oh, this is like the comics code that we have to put on all the heroes, and it became the way of life for this character. And one of my issues is that you can't just point out all the number of issues that Batman has killed, either in the Golden Age or even later, where writers decided that, and just be like, okay, well, that justifies this happening in this movie. Because it doesn't really. Right. You're not just adapting those certain comics or those certain issues. You're adapting the ideology. You're adapting the versions of the characters, the iconography of this characters, everything associated with them, and you're the one forming it too in pop culture. So it is a sort of one where you have to have a duty to the parts of it that make it who that character is in the grand scheme of things, in the grand scheme of 80 years, and the majority of that, not the like maybe 50 comic issues where he actually kills. Because then it's just like you're not honoring exactly are you honoring. So that's one problem I have with it. Another problem with it is that, as I said, Batman's just less interesting if you just allow him to kill people. There's certain stories that everybody loves that just don't work if he's already killing people. I saw so many people for when Ben Affleck was attached for the Batman, and they saw the Jason Todd suit in Batman vs. Superman. They're like, okay, this would be awesome if the Batman was under the Red Hood.
Right.
Problem, though, is once you saw that Ben Affleck's already killing people in Batman vs. Superman, under the Red Hood doesn't work. Because the whole point of Under the Red Hood is that he has a difference of opinion of Jason Todd, who wants to go off killing criminals and is telling him that's what you should have done in the first place. The entire ending of Under the Red Hood doesn't work because it's all about why didn't you kill the Joker? In fact, why didn't Ben Affleck's Batman kill the Joker after killing Jason Todd? In this version, he might as well have.
Yeah.
You know, Batman, the Dark Knight Returns doesn't work either because, and this is a whole other thing. Dark Knight Returns, the whole point of the final confrontation with the Joker is he really, really wants this to be the last time and wants to kill him, and he can't bring himself to do it. He pretty much practically does. He does like snap the neck, but to the point where he's still alive, and Joker's the one who finishes it off. But it still makes it that rich of a story. Now, it's Snyder who uses the Dark Knight Returns actually to justify this. There's an interview, it's a video interview, where he says, hey, like, Batman kills in the Dark Knight Returns, he shoots a thug between the eyes. Now, I've read the Dark Knight Returns maybe 20 times. There's no panel where he shoots anybody between the eyes. There's a panel where there's a mutant gang member who is holding a baby hostage, and Batman steals the gun, and this is what Snyder sort of quoted in the Batman vs. Superman, and all you see is him firing the gun, and the mutant gang member ducking down like this with blood behind, and that's it. But there's no instance of saying that mutant gang member was killed. There's no shot between the eyes. It's just like this with like blood behind. And later on, like the cops aren't charging Batman with murder, at least until Joker's body is found. And he's saying like I can't keep keeping you alive. This will break the one rule. This will break the promise that I made all these years ago. Which tells me if he did use that gun, it was like shot that mutant in like the shoulder or something, or shot the wall behind him or something like that. It didn't. There's no indication that he broke the no kill rule on that one mutant leader. Why would even Frank Miller? I know that sometimes we have issues with him, but why the hell would he sort of make the one time Batman does that in just like one or two panels and not really acknowledge that? It doesn't make any
Right.
sense.
Right.
So Snyder using that to justify it is just ignorance on his part, really, because that's not in the actual comic. There's a great video. There's a channel called High Top Films. We should tweet this to him, by the way.
Okay.
He has this great video called Batman Does Not Kill. And he inserts himself interviewing Snyder and ripping Snyder apart even more than I've just did with the whole Dark Knight Returns thing, because it just doesn't. It's not in the fucking comic. It's
Right.
not in
Right.
there at all. Like I don't get where this idea came from, and his support for having him do this. It just feels juvenile.
It's like mind-boggling, right?
Yeah, it is. People are just like, you guys are just fanboys and like being entitled about your Batman and stuff like that. And my response to that is just like, this is a character that belongs to everybody. This is a character who has already killed in pop culture. So Snyder making him kill doesn't actually make it a unique part of his vision. If anything, it just makes him seem like he just followed the trend.
Right.
So, I mean, I looked into this, and I haven't brought myself to rewatch any of the 1940s serials. But even if I did, like, even if he killed back then, like, Batman was still like forming. The Batman we know today was still forming at the time.
Right.
So even if he did back then, it probably wouldn't matter that much. Adam West only accidentally killed once in the 1966 movie when he punched a thug and the thug disintegrated, and he had no idea that was going to happen.
Whoa.
So,
forgot about that.
Technically he did, but not really, because he stopped. Like they still got rid of the thugs, but it wasn't meant to happen. Michael Keaton's Batman, however, and this was a huge point of contention on Burton. He does kill in the Batman. He blows up Access Chemicals. He kills all the Joker's thugs there. He throws thugs off the down the bell tower at the end, and he technically kills Joker. I mean, all he does is shoot the bola around his legs, and the Joker falls from there. So that's with Keaton. Kilmer, I think, only kills once. I might be wrong. I think he does. He might have done something that kills Two-Face's thugs, but he definitely kills Two-Face at the end. When he throws the coins and Two-Face falls to his death. George Clooney takes the cake, however, because he's the only live-action Batman who does not kill anybody. Now, that's disappointing, right? Because it's
not surprising though, because I mean that's the lightest of the film versions, right? Other than Adam West one, I guess.
Right. Yeah. So George Clooney walks away scot-free. And then we bring to the Christian Bale one, and this is one where like Nolan fans might jump on me, but like the Christian Bale Batman kills. Like I don't see why there's a point of contention on that. You can argue Batman Begins. There's some gray areas because, he tells Liam Neeson, "I won't kill people. I won't be an executioner." He throws the fire poker. I don't think he intended to burn the place down. I think he was just trying to get rid of it. And then the whole place just happens to burn to the ground. But I don't think he planned.
We don't have to spend a whole tangent on this, but my contention on this particular point is that you literally have a house full of the most trained ninjas in the fucking world, and what is one of the top ninja skills? Escape, motherfucker. Escape.
Well, him too. So
I feel like he had. Look, they don't show it. They don't show a whole lot of people. Maybe there's a shot of some people dying. I don't know, but I can't remember.
On him.
But it's just like, dude, I feel like if there's no shot of it, then we can just assume that they all escaped.
Well, I mean, you do see the ninjas flying back and forth, but anyways, it's I'm preaching to the choir because we both agree like this wasn't really Bruce's fault. I'm not accusing him of killing in Batman Begins, is what I'm saying.
Yeah.
Because there's that, but people bring that up. The car chase, they flat out say that none of the cops died. It's kind of hard to believe, but okay. And then at the end, the big point of contention is it's kind of gray area when he's like, "I won't kill you, but I don't have to save you," sort of thing. I'm like, well, I think the comic book Batman would have tried to save him, but like he didn't technically. Like there's enough of a gray area that I'm like, okay, fine. But then you get to Dark Knight. And here's my issue with the ending is that you spend the whole movie him saying, like, "I won't break the one rule, I won't break the one rule." He saves Joker. But then at the end, when Two-Face is threatening Gordon's boy, Batman just kind of tackles him and he sends him reeling off the roof, and there's no mention of the fact that he flat out killed this guy when he could have taken any number of the moves that he could have done that you've seen him do in the previous movies or in the comics and stuff. So that death of Harvey Dent definitely is on Batman's case. I get the situation. I get the situation that like it was either, he had to save Gordon's kid. However, we've seen a hostage, like Under the Red Hood shows like what happens in a similar type of hostage situation, and he manages to find a different way. I just don't get why this movie spent so long. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's still a solid movie, and I credit Dark Knight a lot to the resurgence of Batman, but like there are flaws to it where I'm like, okay, like you're not gonna at least acknowledge that you took that route with what happened to Dent, and then Dark Knight Rises just flat out has him say to Catwoman, "No guns, no killing," which is great until he uses a machine gun in the Batwing to take down Talia and the truck driver. Again, like I get that,
Right.
like he had to stop them, but like that's why in the comics they always show different routes. Like you would use some. I mean, this leads me into a whole other thing. I don't get why in the movies, in every version of the movies, except for everything in the movies from Tim Burton on, there's machine guns in the Batmobile and the Batwing.
Right.
Even though I don't think that's in any of the comics.
They're just cool,
like,
man.
Yeah, but I'm like, it defeats the point. Like,
no, I know. I agree with you.
Tear gas. I can see him spraying like flash bombs and things like that. That's fine, but I'm like, I don't get like Tim Burton. Okay, I get it because he was only going off of the few comics that Michael Uslan gave him. He wasn't a huge fan, but by the time we got to Nolan, if you already have seen this and you're building comics off of the fact that he doesn't, you've built the movies off the fact he doesn't kill and he doesn't use machine guns, then why in the climax of the movie does he use machine guns to take out when you could come up with something way more creative? So, by the time we get to Snyder, then I think the reason why Snyder gets probably the most hate lately for it is because we've seen it so many times. There was an expectation that when we saw Snyder's Batman with the Batsuit, when we saw him with the black and gray, when we saw all these things that seemed comic accurate, we thought it almost seemed for sure that he was going to go for Batman's also going to have the no killing rule, especially because a lot of people theorize that the reason why Batman would go after Superman was because Superman snapped Zod's neck at the end of Man of Steel.
It's pretty much the worst as far as the killing is concerned. It's the worst in the Snyderverse, right? Snyder movies, the two movies he did with Batman.
Yeah, because at least there's some gray area in even the Burtons and the Nolans where it's just like, okay, but maybe he had to do that for the greater good. Like maybe he had to do that in order to save the city. However, it's pretty much unnecessary in the Snyder version. When he's in the car chase, he's just going after them because they have the kryptonite. Like, why did he even have to go after them? Why did he have to like crash through everybody and kill everybody on the way over? The thing is, he had a fucking tracking device. The movie shows he had a tracking device on that thing the whole time. I don't know how it survived in the whole explosion. He had no reason to even chase after them.
Right.
The only reason why it's in there is because there's a car chase in the movie. And then even after his supposed beginning of his redemption arc, when after the Martha scene, and he goes after them in the warehouse, he's still killing people in that. So I'm like, okay, so it's the most brutal in the Snyder version, and I think that's one of the reasons why people go after him. But I think for me personally, when I watched it was disappointing because I'm just like, I've seen this so many times, and I thought this would be the one thing that they would get this right, especially because Snyder, having done 300 Watchmen, it seemed like he would do exactly what he would see in the comics, and instead we were seeing something really a lot different in my mind. So that's to me, if people are like wondering, why do you have issues with Batman killing when he wasn't the only one doing it? I'm just like, I have an issue with Batman killing in all versions. I'm not a fan of the comics where it happens either. You can't point to those comics in the Golden Age as justification for it. If you're going to point to them as justification for it, then why don't we just adapt the original versions of everything? In the original versions of everything, Alfred was a fat dude named Alfred Beagle who was comic relief, who did not have anything to do with raising Bruce Wayne. He showed up when Bruce already had Robin. to help out. So why don't we just do that version? Or Lex Luthor is some sort of dictator dude in red robes and red hair, and his name is Alexei Luthor. Why don't we do that one?
And Superman doesn't fly; he just jumps.
Superman doesn't fly. I mean, that's the least of the. I mean, I'm sure some people would be like, oh, it's still like around the same thing, but I'm like, it's not the same. Like, if you want to do one where Batman kills us like in the Golden Age, fine. Like, well, but let's straight up do the Golden Age then. Like, don't pick and choose or just use one or two, because there's always going to be one or two comics that have something that's vaguely similar that you can be like, oh yeah, that justifies it, but does it make sense for being a filmmaker who is trying to represent a character who has been around for all these years? I don't think so. So that's my problem with it.
So basically, I agree with pretty much everything you said. I just got a few disclaimers to get out of the way first. Yep. I've already worked under Snyder for something that I can't talk about. You could say it's one on the smaller end of things that he's done, but and I'll probably work under him again. He doesn't know me. I've never met him. And look, maybe we'll meet at some point, and hopefully this doesn't come to the light of day. I don't know, but look, I'm going to disagree with how you treated Batman. I'm going to say that straight up. And hopefully you can respect my opinion on that. I think 300 is probably your best movie. I fucking loved that. And then I defended Man of Steel for years. Okay?
I know. I remember our debates on that. Yeah.
Ben knows about that. I have problems with Man of Steel too, but I call myself a Man of Steel apologist. I mean, that movie really, how can I say this? It affected me. It was the timing. There was something going on with the timing with my personal life or something. I don't know what it was, but it just like it really caught me. Like I really loved most of Man of Steel. That being said, I just feel like you making. It's like I'm talking to him directly. I feel like Snyder. Just making something dark doesn't make it better, man. Like it straight up doesn't. I know it's Batman and he's like dark and cool and criminals kill him and stuff like that. But and look, I think the way that he handled the fight scenes, it was the best fight scene Batman's ever done. It's one of the things that you kind of get right every time, almost every time. Like your fighting scenes are fucking phenomenal. But with the killing stuff, the thing is, like, you got that quote, criminals are, what was it, cowardly lot or whatever? That's always
superstitious and cowardly lot.
Superstitious and cowardly lot. Right. So this is in the comics a lot. If you just know Batman through the movies, you don't know this quote but this is like one of his most famous quotes, if not the most famous quote in all the comics. And what does this hint at? This sort of like part of the Batman mythos is that he is extremely prejudiced towards bad guys. He will save a bad dude. He will fuck up a bad dude and then save him. Send him to Gordon or whatever. But he won't kill him, right? The thing is, like, a criminal killed somebody with a gun, killed his parents with a gun. And look, I know you can write Batman in any kind of which way. This is a character that's made up. Right. You can do any rules that you want, but there's just a large contingent, Ben and I aren't alone here, that feel like this character shouldn't be this way. And of course, in the real world, if you engage in stuff like that, you're probably going to kill somebody eventually. I get it. Yeah. But part of this whole fantasy is that it's a martial arts fantasy. I talked about this with Ben before. I mean, it's ultimately for kids, or at least for like teenagers or something like that. And for us too, for all ages. But, kids are kind of a big deal with comic book superheroes, right? Right. And, like, the way I always viewed it was, especially when they added the whole, like, training with the League of Shadows shit, is that this whole fantasy is contingent upon this, like, elite training that he gets from Ra's or Ra's al Ghul, whatever the fuck you want to call him. I know we're not getting into that right now. That's not the point. But, he is so ridiculously good at martial arts that he doesn't have to kill. He does every fucking thing in his power to not kill.
Mm-hmm.
I do say that see, that's why we talked about like Under the Red Hood and shit like that, because Robin, like, the character is written in such a way where he has this rule so hardcore that Robin starts to feel, or Jason Todd Robin, right, starts to feel like he just won't kill anybody, won't kill the Joker. He would save the Joker, but let Robin die. Like, that's how strongly that character feels about that. Like, you would never kill anybody. But the way I would write Batman would be, I don't know what the conditions would be, but I think that he would kill if it fucking really fucking had to. Why would you want to bring that character to that point? I don't know. But I do think that is a card in his deck of cards that he would play like fucking 0.0000001% of the time. You know what I'm saying? But most of the time, the no kill rule stands. He's extremely prejudiced. Again, he'll save him, but like Batman sees himself like the thing is, that prejudice comes into play in his character a lot, right? Like,
yeah,
the bad guys are bad. It's fucking black and white for him in a lot of ways, right? Like, I don't know, man. You know what I'm saying, though, right? I think I pretty much said what I wanted to say about that. It's just like, fuck, man. Like, you just want. That's a dose of realism that we don't really need. Like, this whole, like, this guy kills people. Like,
I agree.
Like, you already, look, if we wanted, like, full realism, he would have the fucking face covered up entirely. And how the fuck would anybody get henchmen in the first place? You know what I mean? Like, the whole idea of henchmen is not realistic.
Joker.
Yeah.
Like, who would work for Joker?
Who the fuck would, maybe Penguin, right? Maybe. Who the fuck would work for Joker? There's certain, like, comic book conventions that most of the fans and comic book movie fans are sort of like kind of on board with. And man, my cat just meowed like fucking crazy right now.
Okay.
Can you hear that?
I can, yeah. I better you at one of these podcasts. You probably heard mine at some point, so
yeah,
we're even.
Yeah, well, it's okay.
I mean,
go ahead.
I think it's important to establish why this is such a big part of the character too, because I think some people are like, well, like, it's because of the comics code. Like, it's the comics code that they did that back in the 40s is an outdated thing. It's a kiddish fantasy. I think Snyder's one of those who, he might not have said those exact words, but his whole thing about wake the fuck up is telling, because he sort of is like, oh, like in the real world, this wouldn't happen. But again, I would argue this has nothing to do with the real world or morality in terms of the fact that this is how you're adapting a character, and this is a key part of the character. It's a key part of the character because he is somebody who watched his parents get gunned down. He's seen the effect of death, the effect of taking another life, and he does not want to be what he hates.
Right.
And that's, I think it was perfect the way that Nolan planted that in Batman Begins, where he had thought of killing Joe Chill with shooting him, and then Katie Holmes slaps him, and by the perfect, it was perfect editing, and he's at the pier and he's got the gun in his hands, and he parallels that with seeing Joe Chill kills his parents, and then he throws the gun.
Right.
And that's, even though you know that he at that point is saying, I won't kill people, I won't take a life, you know that that's what's going on through his head.
Right.
So that was great. Now contrast that with like Batman versus Superman. You would think in the beginning, where you see a pretty violent depiction of the Wayne murders, that would be enough to be like, hey, like, I don't want that to happen again. Especially if you see the Ultimate Cut, Joe Chill flat out shoots Martha in the throat.
He's always gotta take like this step up, man. Like, okay, we get it, man. I don't know.
Yeah,
like, it's just,
I don't know. But I'm saying, like, it's such a violent version that you would think that version of Batman would try to abide by it even more than the previous versions. The bloodiest is probably the Gotham's version, surprising enough, even though that's on network TV. That one actually shows just like the blood spurts and all that. But again, as I showed you, I showed Andrew the scene from season 3 where Bruce says, "I will not kill."
Right.
which gets a little muddled in season 4 when he stabs Ra's al Ghul, but like it's kind of a mess. But anyway, it's
Gotham's a mess. What?
um, I think people are underestimating that side of it because you rarely see this come into play other than the age old, oh, like if we kill them we become just as bad as them. Like you see that all the time. It's even said in Batman Begins, but I think the fact that it stems from the murder of his parents, I think at that point any argument about how he should kill or shouldn't kill should be off the table because
Right.
that's what gave birth to him in the first place. He's trying to go after death. He's trying to hunt after that. So it's why that's important as opposed to seeing other characters where like I don't give a shit honestly if Captain America kills some Hydra agents. I don't because that's not part of the thing. That's not part
I
of the
feel like
character.
Snyder should just like direct Punisher. Like,
I'm
just
down for that.
get a character that really plays to his
Mhm.
strengths. Like I feel like anybody in like Golden Age, it's just not his fucking bag, man. Like the
Mhm.
DC before this switch up that they had recently, and even Tsujihara is stepping down soon.
Mhm.
It's like like those characters have such a the Golden Age of Golden Age. Like they're a little bit more wholesome than what Snyder likes to do. Him getting like Man of Steel. It's amazing he made it that good, honestly, because
Mhm.
like it's like plays to almost none of his strengths. I feel like he's like one of the most wholesome characters that we have,
Right.
and I don't even know how that happened, but
Yeah.
yeah, he needs to get like Punisher or Deadpool eventually or something, but
Yeah.
let somebody handle the comedy of it. But yeah,
I think so. I mean, everyone's like, we want to see the Snyder Cut. We want to see the Snyder Cut of Justice League. And this may be controversial, but I don't care. I
I
don't
do
care if the
not
Snyder
care
Cut comes
either.
through.
I don't
Yeah.
care.
I mean, look, sure, I get it. It was unfair that they didn't let him go with a vision that they had already signed up for. We should see what he actually did shoot. I'm down to see it. If it does come out, then fine, I'll see it. But in terms of like, is it going to make it much of a difference? It's not going to make any difference whatsoever.
And then it's like, what's going to be canon, what's not? I mean, I know they're not really doing like a extended universe kind of thing anymore,
Yeah.
but honestly, I feel like once they like get their shit together, they might go back to that. Like once they figure out what they're doing.
Yeah, I mean, I pointed a few things. First off, it's just like I wasn't super down with his version of stuff anyway. That
Right.
I'm like,
Right.
I'm not. There's no guarantee that I'm actually gonna like this version that he came up with better than the one that came out.
Right.
Second of all, this has kind of already happened in a way. Richard Donner's Superman 2 cut came
Right.
out
Right.
years later, decades later. You know how much of a difference that made? Zero. Like nobody. In fact, it came out, and I think people still prefer to watch the original version after it came,
Right. Right. Right.
because it was unfinished. It's got portions from like a fucking audition scene from 1977. It's not actually a movie. It's just a cobbling together of like what he could have had done based off the footage that he shot. It still ends with Superman going around the world and flying around the world because they hadn't figured out what the ending would be, and they just didn't want to reuse what was in the one that the other director shot.
Right.
So it's a mess. There's no guarantee in my mind that this is going to be a better movie at all. But just like I get it. I wouldn't mind checking it out. I'm not saying it doesn't exist. I'm not saying that it is bad because I haven't seen it. But again, like even if it does come out, part of me is just like, all right, well, so what? Good that it came out, and I'll watch it. But it's not going to change the state of the DC EU or the worlds of DC or whatever the hell they're calling it. It's not going to change any of that. It's not going to change the fact that I think that the WB messed up in giving so much creative control to this guy who hadn't really proven himself to be able to handle something like this. He was handling R-rated stuff like 300 and Watchmen, and they handed him Superman and Batman vs Superman, and we're somehow okay with all the random shit that he threw into Batman vs Superman. Like Man of Steel, I get why like Warner Brothers was down for that because they're just like, all right, there's a dark reimagining. You basically Nolanized Superman. So they were down for that. It's got all the action. Like I get how Warner Brothers approved that. I don't get how Warner Brothers.
He killed that Krypton shit, bro. Fucking heavy metal Krypton.
Yeah.
I dude, major props on the Krypton scenes. I
Yeah.
fucking loved that shit.
But what I'm saying is that for uh Batman versus Superman, I'm like, were there seriously execs who were watching this and be like, oh yeah, that random nightmare sequence that's just in the middle of the movie, that totally makes sense. Or how about like the Jolly Rancher and the jar of pee? Like, yeah, that's definitely like, let's go for that. Like, I don't
That's one
get
of the best
how.
things that fucking Max Landis said. We have a whole plot point surrounded by a jar of pee. That's a big part of this movie.
Yeah.
Yeah. I mean, look. Please don't judge me harshly,
Yes.
Snyder. I'm one of the few people talking about this movie online that might actually work with you. Again,
Okay.
but yeah,
Yeah.
it could have been better. And I will see your
Anything I
movies
say
again.
sort of-
I will see the Snyder cut if it comes out. Seriously,
I will.
but
I will too.
you know, it's just it's hard. Like James Wan said recently, like on not that Snyder and Wan are the same, but you know, he said on his Twitter, like, look, if you don't like my movie, it's cool. You know, like hopefully Snyder feels that way. And plus, like, what do I matter? Like, you're a multimillionaire, bro. Like,
Yeah.
it's just like, hopefully, if you do actually see this, or listen to it, fuck, what does it even matter? They're probably not gonna give you another movie at this point. I mean, another superhero DC movie. I could see, actually see fucking like Images universe picking up or something like. Don't they have a Bloodshot movie on the way? Anyway, it's another tangent. But
My cat is guest starring into this podcast.
my cat has done that as well before. But yeah, man. I mean, it's just the thing is like Snyder's the kind of guy. He's basically Snyder to me is a lot like Fincher, but better at action. Like he loves dark visuals, not quite as dark as Fincher, but somewhere in the same ballpark. Like he's like his visual style is really good.
Yes, yeah.
Great with slow mo. A lot of people don't like that. I actually like that to a certain degree. But that's just this has been said a lot on like the nerd sphere online or whatever the fuck you want to call it, Reddit or whatever. But like a lot of characters just don't warrant that, man. Like it just doesn't warrant it. Like if you did Punisher, you would fucking be right at home. That character is that.
I'm down to see John Bernthal finish off his Punisher arc with a Zack Snyder movie.
Fuck
like,
yeah.
I would see that.
That would be fucking incredible. That's plays like can you imagine like Snyder goes to Marvel? Like that would be fucking awesome. Like Snyder, you would fucking kill that shit. That would be fucking incredible. And then you get some John Wick, Wick crew. Like John Wick 3 is going to be done. The trilogy's done. Those guys are available, supposedly. And then if they get the John Wick stunt crew, Zack Snyder, John Bernthal, Punisher, that's fucking incredible. It's just this whole Batman stance you have. It's just not right, and you're not paying attention to the fan base at large. I know you want to make your stamp on this whole thing. You're a creative type. I get it. You want to make your stamp. This is your Batman, and yes, Batman is whoever the fuck you want to make it to be. But it's a fake character, whatever. But there is like a humongous part of the fan base that is really against this.
Yeah, I mean, I remember back when Watchmen came out that he said his dream project was actually The Dark Knight Returns with Jeffrey Dean Morgan.
No shit. Yes, that's exactly what he wants to do.
And I'm like, why didn't you? I mean, I would have just been down to see that.
Those mutants would have been fucking incredible.
Yeah.
Like if he did that with with his like, he did Sucker Punch with a lot of like practical effects makeup on all those dudes, and like that would have been great with a big ass tank and shit. Like honestly, he probably would have killed that shit. That would have been incredible. That might have. I mean, look, there's a lot of like the studio is to blame as well. It seems like to a large degree. I get it. There was they had their head up their ass. It seems like I'm not saying it's not all Snyder. It definitely 100%. That is not the case.
Right, yeah. I mean, I will.
Yeah.
I'll give him props on a few things. I do love that the visual designs for the costumes were always pretty much dead on, and like I didn't really
Excellent.
have issues with them.
Excellent costumes.
Flash, like I wouldn't have gone that route necessarily, but like it was still better than what we could have had. Casting for the most part was pretty on point with Cavill as Superman and Affleck and Godot. Still hate Eisenberg as Lex, but like that's
Oh man, that was
yeah.
sorry, Eisenberg, man. We have a chance of meeting someday, but God, it could have been better, man. It could have been better. That's all I'm gonna say.
My boy Eric, he's a writer on Supergirl. I remember what happened was he was teasing on his Instagram like Lex Luthor is coming to Supergirl, and I was like, whoever they get is going to be better than Jesse Eisenberg. And he's like, yeah, man, like you wait and see. And then I didn't tell him this, but the news report came out that it was going to be Two and a Half Men's John Cryer as Lex Luthor, and I was like, I'm really going to eat my words that this is going to be better than Eisenberg. Let's see what happens. And then I saw him play Lex Luthor, and he was amazing. He is not Two and a Half Men John Cryer anymore. He actually is the comic book Lex Luthor come to life, in that he is basically the Lex Luthor I wish wasn't Batman versus Superman. And instead of being in a multi-million-dollar movie, he's in one episode of a CW show. I'm like, this is really unfair as a comic book fan that traditional version of the characters that I want to see are not on the big screen. Because Supergirl also has a version of Superman, who I prefer characterization-wise, at least, to the Snyder version. I think Cavill is still like probably the best actor he could have gotten for Superman on screen, but like he wasn't given the best material. That's the problem.
Right.
Even Cyborg. I don't know if you've caught Doom Patrol, but the Cyborg on Doom Patrol is way more interesting than the one in the Justice League.
I watched the first episode of Doom Patrol, and I've just been kind of busy. But I like it. Look, the DCU. God, man, people need to jump on that. A lot of it's they're doing a lot of good on DCU. Yeah. It feels like, it really does feel like by fans for fans. Do you feel that way?
I do. I mean, I'm on there every day, and there's always stuff. There's such a huge library and everything. And because at first, when they first announced it, I was like, I don't know, like it seems like it's gonna fail. It's just gonna be TV stuff. And then they're like, oh well, we've also got the archives. We've also got past TV shows. We got past movies. We got the comics. And I'm just like, all right, well, I'm in, and it's probably saved me so much more money on not having to buy or trying to like buy the stream versions of all these TV shows in the past, or all these comics on Comixology, when it's all like on there.
You finished Doom Patrol?
I haven't seen the latest episode yet. It's still going.
Oh, so you're caught up. You're caught up though.
I'm almost caught up. I haven't seen the last episode, but Doom Patrol is insane. It's just there's so much weirdness in there that I'm just like, oh, all right, I guess I'm along for the ride.
I like Titans a lot. I mean, I think there was a lot good there. It does seem like Titans was a bit since it was like their first big original live action content. It seemed like it was like a bunch of one shots, like almost like one shots. Like, hey, we're introducing Doom Patrol, we're introducing Hawk and Dove or whatever. We're introducing, like, it was like a way to like backdoor a bunch of characters, but at the same time, it kind of worked ultimately. And it was like DC dark, but it was done pretty well. Like it was forgivable, you know.
Mm-hmm. It does remind me that finale where he envisions that Batman is killing criminals now again. Doesn't work if Batman's already killing criminals. Like the whole reason why that was kind of a cool what if is because that's a Batman who doesn't kill or wasn't killing people until that point. So that does remind me of that. But I think Titans it's got its next season coming up, and I feel like this first one was kind of just growing pains. They were trying to figure out like what does the DC universe, what can we do on here? Because apparently there were a lot of stuff that was rewritten. Like the finale wasn't supposed to originally be the finale, and I'm just like, okay, let's see. For me, I feel like it's unfair to really give the show a shot until we see this next one, where I think they're going to give a little more freedom.
That whole like, I want my parents back. Like that that scene was a highlight of the fucking season. That was fucking epic.
That episode.
I mean, that episode was incredible. I thought that was fucking great. Like, it was awesome. I mean, fuck. Let's get back on topic, though. Back to how Batman should be portrayed. Anything else that we can go over?
I'll just say this.
Pretty much it for now, Ron.
I'll just say this. I think Snyder was trying to say that He had Batman who was lost sight of his morality, as had killed people because he wanted to say make a statement, I guess, about how like our heroes aren't heroes anymore, they lost morality and things like that. And I'm just like, well, then you missed the point of superheroes if that's the
Right.
case. It's he saw Batman as this rich guy who was given up on morality and is so convinced Superman is a threat that he plans on murdering him through the whole movie. And all I'm going to say to Snyder is that's not Batman, that's Lex Luthor.
Right. Right.
You're fucked up. So, you know, I know Andrew, you're like, I don't know if I'm going to work with him or keep working with him, but like for me, I'm like, I'm pretty sure I don't know. We'll see. But for me, if in response to him saying "wake the fuck up," I'm just going to say, thank God you're not in charge of these anymore.
Yeah. Um, pretty much I'm in a pickle with that whole situation, but
You don't have
but
to comment on what I said. You can
yeah,
know.
yeah,
You can,
yeah, yeah. I mean, Ben, basically you get the idea. Like your representation, we feel wasn't like how we would have done it, and I know you can do better. I don't know, but it's just because a character looks like a bat and there's like a lot of darkness and he throws smoke bombs and stuff like that. It doesn't mean that like just because a character is evil looking
mm-hmm.
doesn't warrant this darkness.
Right.
It's just not the character. Huge, like I said, huge part of the fan base. Huge part of the fan base doesn't
Mm-hmm.
really agree with that. And also, if you look like Aquaman, Wonder Woman, and all the stuff in the CW and DCU now, like all this stuff that's like going with what the source material like is following it more closely than ever.
Mm-hmm.
It has almost I can't even think of a fucking example where it hasn't succeeded more. Like it's succeeded time and time again, and the
Mm-hmm.
reason for that is because it's already been hashed out on paper. Like the comic book artists and writers, they've been doing this for so long. They know what works and
Yeah.
what doesn't work. Like it's like every fucking month you got to pump out a new fucking Batman book, and like this has been through the pipeline at DC for 80 years now today, and it's yes, it's changed, and he did use a gun before, and it's this mythological character that has been refined over the years. But one of those refinements is this thing that we're talking about. It's
Mm-hmm.
it's the no kill rule. I mean, maybe even rule is like not even the right word, but it's like
Oh,
a
it's
personal
accurate.
yeah, it's a personal rule that
It's
he
his
has
code.
for himself, a personal
Mm-hmm.
code. He's a guy that lives by a code, and that's just you know kind of like more in the direction of what a lot of fans, including us, would like to see.
Right.
So
I mean,
basically, that's it.
yeah. I mean, I'd say it's not just. It's not even about like what fans want to see so much as it's what makes the character,
Right, right.
regardless of like what we like. Because you could, I'm sure there's a contingent of fans who sort of love what Snyder did, who are fine with him killing and stuff like that, and they're not super attached to it. So it's I don't know if there's a lot of ones who want him to kill necessarily, but I'm sure there's still some from the school of thought of thinking that it's dumb that Batman doesn't kill the Joker because of the amount of people that he would save in killing Joker. But I think that's why that's a great dynamic, is because he can never bring himself to do that.
Right. Yeah. I agree.
Mm-hmm.
It does so much. It's like you might as well introduce guns at this point, and that changes the whole fighting dynamic and everything. Like
Yeah.
that's just like you're turning Batman into the Punisher. Like the if you add more guns in, I mean, yeah, you could have like John Wick style, I guess, martial arts with guns, but it's
Mm-hmm.
like but you still remove a
Yeah.
huge part of the martial arts fantasy aspect to it, and the whole core aspect of him thinking himself differently from criminals.
Yeah.
Like this again. Maybe this is a holdover from Golden Age, but it's still
Mm-hmm.
like kind of a big deal, man. Like that's the reason he's wearing a suit, so he can. I mean, not the only reason, but like he's bulletproof, but he's not. It is not holding a gun at the same time. Like I don't
Mm-hmm.
know. I feel like all those things are like interconnected.
Yeah, I mean, you bring up a good point. Like, he's going off of an urban legend. He's going off of the mythology of, like, there's a giant bat stalking criminals in the city, and this kind of gets taken away the moment that you bring in that this giant bat is also firing bullets at people.
Yeah, right. That's another
Yeah.
thing. Like the whole like, what are you gonna have him like with a sniper rifle all of a sudden? Like, I mean, not sniper rifle maybe, but like with a fucking silencer. Like the whole ninja aspect goes out the door too with fucking the whole stealth thing, man. Like,
Yeah.
dude,
I mean, yeah.
it's just like,
My biggest problem,
man.
though, is that it cuts it off from some of the greatest stories that have been made about this. As I said, Under the Red Hood doesn't work. Dark Knight Returns doesn't work. I just read the first arc of Batman and Robin from the New 52, where, like, how does Bruce handle it when Damian kills somebody?
Right,
And, like,
right.
that would not be as rich of a story if Batman's already killing. Instead, it would just be like, oh, like, so you figured out how to do it too. Like, I don't get how that would work in the same scenario. It's because that's such a key part of the character that becomes fodder for more stories. And I'd rather
Snyder would handle a Damian
like
Wayne story.
If it was just Damian, I guess so.
Just Damian like killing people and stuff. Like, look, maybe you could be part of the Bat family in that way. You know what I mean? It's just the Bruce Wayne version. Like this is kind of a problem, you know. But
or Azrael doing the whole Nightfall thing. Like,
yeah,
I could see that. But
Deadshot he would kill probably. Like, you know, like it's just honestly, like, I don't know if you say cast for director, but you kind of miscast, man. You're kind of miscast.
Right. Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'd say so. But I mean, it's not a. It's kind of a moot point at this point, because since he's not really working on it anymore, it's just now it's hope that the Matt Reeves version, if he is as big of a fanboy as we saw when we last talked about this, I'm hoping that becomes. Sadly, the first true Batman did not kill people on streets. It's George Clooney.
Oh, I mean, they'll hold the detective shit he keeps talking about and like. Taxi Driver and Chinatown, like influencing at least some parts of the movie, like or at least tone wise. Like there's a lot of every time he talks about this movie in interviews, like fuck, you can hire Robert Pattinson all you want. Like this, like this is sounding really good, man. This is sounding pretty good. Overall,
I mean, I haven't seen Pattinson in anything since Harry Potter and the Goblet of Fire. I do. Think that he is probably a better actor than Twilight gives him credit for, given his latest films. I haven't seen them. However, I mean, if he's cast, then all power to him, but I still think there's probably better choices out there.
Probably. All right, man, we're about at the hour mark. You have any final thoughts? I'm going to cue up that song.
Don't have Batman kill people.
I agree. And fuck, do Punisher, man. That would be fucking incredible.
Yeah.
I mean, that would make the news too. And the thing is, like, everybody, all these like hardcore fucking comic book nerds be like, that sounds about right. You know what I mean? Like, nobody would give a shit. Nobody would give a shit. Like that. Like Punisher's your guy. That's so fucking perfect. All right, everybody, catch Super House on YouTube, Twitch. Fucking Facebook, Twitter, Instagram. We have a Snapchat, but we never fucking use it. Basically, whatever social media you use, we're on that shit. Most importantly, Patreon. Ben, do you have anything to plug?
Not at the moment, but I think the next time you see me, we'll be talking about Shazam.
I can't wait to talk about that. Again, the Flash crew says you have to write every episode with heart, humor, and spectacle. And I think that's what we're going to get with Shazam. I fucking cannot wait for that shit. Ben and I are going to watch that shit together, and it's going to be fucking incredible. So, anyway, this is Andrew signing out.
Ben signing out.